Welcome in, OutKick the show. I'm Clay Travis, special guest wearing his Georgia Bulldog polo.
Go Dogs.
Potentially I think likely to be, should be, the next senator from the state of Georgia. I don't know that I ever anticipated that introduction. We've had a lot of interviews over the years. Derek Dooley with me. So let's just start right here. You born and raised here. You've spent a lot of time. You've been to a lot of games over the years. Did you ever think to yourself, one day, I'm sure you've seen a lot of politicians at these games over the years, hey, I'm going to be running for statewide office, walking around in Georgia. Did it ever cross your mind?
You know, I do have to admit in my younger years.
Yeah, because you had a job in D.C.
I actually worked in D.C. twice. I worked for Sam Nunn, who was a longtime senator from Georgia and just really a great mentor on leadership and statesmanship. And of course, going to law school and practicing law. At that point in my life, I really believe if you had asked, is Dooley going to one day go into politics or go into coaching? Most people who knew me then would say he's probably going to go to politics. But it didn't work out that way. You know, you don't realize what an impact your dad has on you. And I just felt this pull to get back into football and lead and serve a different way. And so I just quit my job practicing law and went from that to billing hours to making coffee.
I want to go to that for a sec before we get into the political universe. You go to University of Georgia for law school, correct?
Right.
You graduate, pass the bar, you've got a good job, you're making a good living, and then you just decide, hey, you know what? This thing's not for me. I'm going to go into coaching. How did you make that choice? And do you remember having sort of a light bulb moment where you said, I'm out?
I actually did. And it wasn't that the law wasn't for me. I really enjoyed it. You know, you followed that same path.
I did not enjoy it. I've had a couple of years. I wanted out. But
there were parts of it that were just so, it appealed to your competitive juices.
Yeah.
But I started really just feeling something like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was literally reading Colin Powell's book.
Yeah.
His first book, who I thought so much of him. And he wrote in there how he had achieved the highest of the high. But what he missed the most was being with the troops, being down with the people and having that camaraderie and teamwork and togetherness. And it started pulling me. That's the void I have in my life right now. I'm not part of a team and I'm not impacting people and leading people. And that's what pulled me back into coaching. That's when I said, you know, this is it. I'm doing it.
So coaching, sort of a fast path all the way up to University of Tennessee head coach. You're a young guy. You get that job. Louisiana Tech, you have a lot of success. And then you continued to coach after Tennessee. We've talked about it quite a lot. What was it like to make that transition, to have not success in coaching? Because at that point in your life, everything had worked really, really well. How tough was that?
No, it's a great question, because early in my career, of course, everything's like this. And it's the human condition. You know, you start thinking you're pretty good. You start thinking you have all the answers. You can fix anything. You don't need advice. And so to have that real public failure at that point in my career, it jarred me. And you can go one of two directions. And the direction I took was I had to look in the mirror and really do a self-analysis, you know, and say, what could I have done differently? Is there anything I could have done? There's a million excuses I could make that it wasn't fair, tough situation. But you know what? Nobody cares about that.
Right.
The more important thing was, how do I come out of this better? And I learned a lot about me. I came out of it a better coach, a better dad, a better husband in a lot of ways. And so I've always said the Tennessee experience was probably the greatest gift I could have. And I think it's also why, you know, football really is the American spirit. I mean, everybody's life isn't always wins and they go. And so I can really relate to people who go through struggles and they've had hard times, kids, families, whatever. And I think that's always helped me since that time.
What was it like going from Tennessee to the Cowboys?
Well, it was a massive change, but what was so fun was I got back to doing what I loved, which was just hardcore coaching with the players. I wasn't dealing with all the other issues that you deal with as a head coach, and certainly in the SEC. And then, of course, I got to be on some great teams there and coach some great players. And so it was really therapeutic to kind of get back in the weeds. You're an assistant coach. We had a lot of success, and then, of course, we had a couple of tough losses on the Dez catch. And
you worked with Dez. What was Dez like?
Des was just the most phenomenal competitor I've ever been around. And of course, he was very passionate. And his passion could come across in a very positive way to the team, but also could come across in a challenging way. And so we ended up having a great relationship. And, you have to earn trust with guys like that, and you got to prove it every day. Because if you break that trust one day, they're never going to play. And look, the first 2 coaches who coached him didn't make it a year. And so I made it 5 years. And let me tell you, they said, well, man, Des must be hard to manage. But you know what? On game day, when he put that helmet on, that's what kept, because you couldn't ask for a better competitor and a better teammate on game day.
What's Jerry Jones like?
He's my all-time favorite. So for people I'll never say a bad word about Jerry Jones.
What's Jerry like? I mean, how would you describe him to people who've never met him?
He's got this way about him that if you work for him and you're a part of that community, you just love him. And certainly he takes a lot of heat because they hadn't been back to the Super Bowl. But I just have so much respect for what he's done for that franchise. And you know what? He always gave us a talented team. I mean, as a coach, that's all you hope for. You want to have good players that you can go coach. And if you really look, everybody beats up the Cowboys because they hadn't made it over the hump. Fair point. What they don't see is, I bet if you just look at overall wins during that time, they might be top 5 in the league or 10. They're always up there knocking on the door. They have a couple of down years, but it's hard to maintain that consistency in the NFL. And if you're doing it, you're doing something right.
Your son played in a couple of big high school games in Texas, which is different level. And I remember you telling me about how that overlapped with the Cowboys and the Jones family and what they did. But I don't know if that story's out there.
It's a great example of Jerry and Steven. My son played on a team with their grandson, John Steven, and they were having this incredible year. And most of the games were on Friday nights, and you could do that in the NFL because you were free Friday nights. So we always went. It was so much fun. They were in the semifinals of the state championship, and the game was on Saturday. And I was like, we had a road game at New York. We were playing the Giants. Our charter was leaving. I was going to miss the first game, and it just crushed me. And so I said, man, I'm not going to be there. Y'all need to win so I can go to the next one. Well, the Thursday or Friday at about 2 o'clock, my desk phone rings. Now, I've been there. The desk phone, I didn't even know I had a desk phone. And it's like, and it's his secretary. It says, Derek, please hold for Jerry. And I went, oh, God.
What happened?
What has Daz done? Am I going to be fired? And he goes, hey, Dooley, I just want you to know you don't have a seat on that charter tomorrow, so don't even show up. And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, your butt's going to be watching that Highland Park game. You can ride up with me and Steven after that. I'm going to tell you. And he told me, he goes, you can't miss opportunities like this with family.
That's great.
And how many owners around
would even know?
I was just a wide receivers coach. He didn't have to do that for me. And so I've just always loved the Jones family. I think the world of them. And it was a real great part of my coaching experience.
Okay, so you're in the NFL. You go back to college. And we're going to get into politics sooner or later. But I know my guys.
This is the red meat.
They love this. So you go back. You're with Saban again at Alabama. My 15-year-old, who's a pretty good kid other than being an Alabama fan, over in the corner. And he's been grilling you about recruiting and everything else. What was the experience like to college, to pros, back to college, right in the middle of sort of this NIL world as college is shifting in a massive way?
Well, let's first start. What was it like going back to Saban? If you remember, I was on his first staff at LSU when really nobody knew who Nick Saban was. They knew him, of course, up at Michigan State. But in the South, it's like, who is this guy? And I was with him 7 straight years. And so then I had this long gap where, we went different ways. And then I came back, and I'll never forget my first staff meeting. It was like a time warp. Nothing had changed.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, he's wearing the same shoes, no socks. He's putting the red man dip in 7 minutes into the meeting, or chewing tobacco. And it's the same structure. And I'm just like, this is remarkable. I mean, he does such a great job of adapting on things as far as X's and O's. But the core of his organization and how he did things, it never changed for 25 years. So it was just an amazing experience.
How tough was he to work for?
He was, in 2000, it's hard to explain. It was a very demanding work
He was
environment.
tougher in 2000 than when you came back in 22, or do you think you were just older? And
No. In fact, I had these debates with these Alabama coaches. They go, "Oh my God, this is insane." And I'm laughing. I'm like, "You guys, y'all have no idea. You didn't know Nick Saban when he was in his 40s and hadn't won anything."
Yeah.
Think of that, okay?
Right.
And then we were talking about the open date. I'm like, this open date is a cake. I pulled out my notes. You want to see what we did? So he was very much more demanding in his younger years. But look, I always say, from a relative scale or an absolute scale. From a relative scale, relative when he was younger, he softened up quite a bit. But from an absolute scale, if you just compare him to all the other college coaches, he was probably still number one.
I always think about this. Is he hard to learn from because his talents are unique? And what I mean by that is, obviously there's been a ton of guys that have coached with him. They've gone different places. You can take something from everybody. And I'm sure you took a ton from your dad. You've been around a lot of great coaches over the years. But is some of his talent set not necessarily transferable to your own individual ability? I'm just kind of curious, because for a while there was, Belichick, for instance. If you worked for Belichick, everybody got jobs and almost none of it translated. Now, maybe you say now they didn't have Tom Brady and everybody goes back and looks at it. How much do you think you were able to take from him versus how much is uniquely him and it doesn't really transfer? Does that make sense?
It's a great question. I think a lot of it transfers because if you look at a lot of the coaches, there's a lot more guys who've had success.
Right. It's unlike Belichick where everybody failed.
I mean, certainly Kirby's the highest example.
Yep.
But even you look around now, I mean, there's Jimbo, of course, had success, but now Sark and Cristobal, I mean, there's a lot of good coaching going around, but there are unique talents that he has. His ability to never allow any ounce of complacency. And
is rare.
In not only in the coaching staff, but in the players. To me, the only coach who's been able to truly duplicate Nick Saban is Kirby Smart. And I've been around a lot of coaches who worked with Nick, me being one of them. I mean,
why do you think Kirby was able to duplicate it?
I don't know. Kirby, he's just wired just like him. We all have our own personalities. And so I had a very different personality than Nick and Kirby. And so you have to take on your personality. You just can't act like Nick Saban and expect it to work. And probably a lot of us in our younger years tried a little bit too, and it just doesn't work. You have to act who you are, and it's got to come from your heart and your core beliefs. And I just think Kirby, and maybe it was his 10 years with him, he just molded him so much that he became that. But he's the only one. Now, he's also in a program that you can reach
have
that
the same
capacity.
caliber of player.
And so, I mean, we have to always, there's a lot of prongs to success. And part of it's the program you're at and the resources. I mean, there's certain programs, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, that have that. I mean, if you look, that's where Nick had his best success, at LSU and Bama. You drop that style in other programs, it's still going to be successful, but you're probably not going to reach the heights that you can in these resources of these programs.
How challenging do you think it would be for anyone to come into Alabama based on what you know of Nick Saban and take over after Nick Saban?
Well,
is there any tougher takeover job that you can really?
But we also, you can't forget now, Alabama, I mean, the resources are there. And just think about two other places. First of all, when Les Miles came in after Nick at LSU.
Had a tremendous amount of success still.
Nick put together that program around, everything was running to win. And to Les's credit, he didn't tinker with anything. All right. And he just coached and recruited and let the machine handle itself, and he had success. I think about Ohio State. All right. Think about when Tressel, he leaves, Urban Meyer, now Ryan Day, all of them are winning over 80% of their games. So it can be done. Now, to the level of what, Nick Saban did, I don't think anybody puts an expectation like that. I mean, he's the greatest coach of all time, but there should be an expectation that you're winning and competitive every year, winning over 80% of your games, over a long period of time. And that's not unreasonable to ask.
Do you think he's done, Saban? At coaching?
Yes.
You think he's done?
Yes. Yeah. You guys are out of your mind.
Well, I think McElroy was the one who got everybody fired up about.
No, I think I can't speak for Nick Saban.
Right.
Okay.
But if you were putting down a bet on it, you would say he's done.
Yeah, because he's still engaged in college football.
Yeah.
He's, of course, a celebrity.
Yeah.
And it allows him to still watch film, but not have the kind of schedule. Because I know how Nick is if he doesn't believe he can go give every ounce of because he knows what it takes to win.
Yeah.
And if he can't give that, he's not going to do it. And so I just he'll never do what his old colleague is doing right now.
You've got, when we talked back when you were with the Cowboys, you just love X's and O's. I think that's one thing that people don't know about you. Yeah. My son over there is 15, likes to talk about who knows ball and who doesn't know ball.
Yeah, ball guy.
Yeah, ball guy. You love it. Yeah. We're going to get into the politics side a little bit.
Eventually.
But do you miss, like when the ball gets kicked, is a part of you going to think, damn, there's no better place to be than standing on a sideline when toe meets leather? Now, you may not love all the things that go into getting to that point, but for people who've never gotten to be on the sideline for a game like that, what is that moment like, and is it hard to walk away from?
It wasn't hard for me, Clay, because I didn't do it on a whim.
Yeah.
I had a lot of thoughts, and I certainly toward the tail end of my career, I just start feeling, I think it's time.
Yeah.
And when I got out, of course, I can't sit there and say I don't miss. What you miss the most, I miss the most, is being around with the guys.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lead into some of this politics. People see game day and this environment, and man, it is awesome. But what carries you through those ups and downs is the impact you're making on young people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what walk of life. It doesn't matter your race, your income, your religion, your politics. You're sitting in these beautiful homes, kitchens and living rooms of some of the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
And they all have these dreams. They all have these obstacles. And you're using football as a vehicle, not only to make them a better player, but to make them better people, to make them better husbands, to make them better dads, citizens. And it really does make an impact on you. And so if you said, what do I truly miss? I miss sitting in the meeting rooms with the guys.
Yeah.
In the locker room and practice. And that's the hardest part of leaving it. You just love being around young people, and they made you young.
When I'm talking about the ball knower, as my boy over there likes to say, as my son, one of the things you try to do is solve problems, right? It's basically a math equation. You've got these guys, and you think that you can get them into, I like to say, football is basically a game of space. Offense, you try to create it. Defense, you try to eliminate it, right? I mean, it's the most basic level. And it's fascinating to figure out how to do that. You left coaching, and you said, hey, I want to try to solve the problem of NIL. I want to try to solve the problem of college athletics. You worked on that for a couple of years. I actually think it's the perfect bridge to what you're trying to do now, which is try to solve bigger issues in the nation. Mm-hmm. So you first, I don't know if this is public at all, but I think Bryant Kemp saw you on one of our OutKick shows and said, man, Derek Dooley's really good. Bryant Kemp, obviously the governor right now. I presume he was one of the first guys to come to you and say, hey, I think you could have a real political future here, and we need somebody in Georgia, which is the battleground of all battlegrounds now, particularly in the Senate. How did this come about? What was the progression to which led you to announcing that you're going to run for the Senate?
Well, leadership matters.
Yeah.
Let's start with that, Clay. And I look back, this thing really started for me after COVID.
Yeah.
During the Biden administration, when the Democrats had the House and the Senate, and I saw things happen in our country that I never thought I would see in my lifetime.
Yes.
I mean, the lawlessness that was going on, the government overreach, lack of transparency, things that were happening at the border. I think about this pumping trillions of dollars into the economy and incentivizing people to stay home, the inflation. And I'm looking around going, where is the leadership?
Yeah.
And I was equally frustrated with a lot of the leadership in college athletics because this NIL thing was brewing. I'm in the weeds of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this really, or what do we, it's like nothing to see here. Our heads stuck in the sand. And so I started feeling the same pull I felt when I was practicing law. Like, I think my time's up on this. I want to go try to be a part of the solution in our country and lead in a different way. And so I didn't have a plan when I got out of coaching. When Governor Kemp, who, by the way, was inspirational in his leadership in Georgia. Because
he did a phenomenal job during COVID.
I'm sitting up there, I was coaching at the Giants.
Yeah.
And I would come home every summer, spend the summers back in Georgia, and I'm looking around. This is like a different world. He opened, and I can't tell you how many business people and community people around the state I've been to that said, if it weren't for Bryant Kemp, my business would have been out.
Yeah.
And so that's leadership, because he was standing in the face of a lot of criticism, a lot of it coming from D.C.
Yep.
And he did what was right for the people of Georgia. And that's the kind of leadership we need across the board, more in the Senate, more in the House. And so when he decided he wasn't going to run for Senate, I saw a door open and I started engaging with the governor and his team. And it was a long process. I didn't take it lightly.
Yeah.
I spent several months trying to get my arms around. I know what kind of risk it is personally, but I just felt this calling to do it. And then it became, I wanted to prove to him that I had what it took to get us over the finish line. And I told Governor Kemp, you know everybody in Georgia, if there's a better candidate that you believe in, you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And so I've been grateful for his support. But as you know, Clay, the only support that matters is the people of Georgia. And that's what I'm doing every day now, rolling up my sleeves, going to try to earn it from the people of Georgia.
All right, so you're going around all over the place. What has part of being a coach, and a lot of people may not spend time on it, you're basically a politician for a large part of the year, right? You got to go kiss babies, pose for photos. You got to shake hands for all the tour and everything else. What has been similar? What's been dissimilar to sort of the cavalcade of surrounding events and everything else compared to being a coach at a big institution?
Well, there are a lot of similarities because you're dealing with people
and media,
and media, and of course the distasteful part of politics, fundraising, which you do as a coach too, and so you have to learn to engage with people who are a lot high worth people and ask them for money and to believe in what you're doing, and so there's a lot of crossover, but. You know, when you say it's like being a politician, that gives me a sour because my view of what a politician is very different because, you know, I think we have too much of this, quote, politician, people who go to D.C. They're up there too long. They make too much money. They get too little done. And really, they're more concerned about their political career than serving the people. And as a coach, you're there trying to show these families that you're going to take this young man and you're going to develop skills and create opportunity for him. And you know what? That's what I'm trying to do out there. I'm going to show them that I'm here to serve you. I want to give this seat back to you. I've had a great career. I'm doing this because I love our country. I have a tremendous amount of pride in it. And I want the next generation and the generation after that to have that same love for it. And we got a lot of work to do as leaders.
Bryant Kemp, phenomenally successful governor. He's term limited out. You mentioned he was potentially interested in running, decides, hey, Senate's not for me. Now you're running. One of the challenges in Georgia has been, how do we bridge across Bryant Kemp and Donald Trump? And there have been challenges with that. Bryant Kemp has endorsed you. So far, Trump hasn't done anything, but I understand you've gotten the opportunity to meet with Trump. What was that like? What did you expect? Had you ever met him before?
No, I hadn't. And let me start off by saying, I don't care what president you go to. As you know, Clay, going into the Oval Office.
It's an unbelievable experience.
It is incredible.
And you're a history guy, too, so like I am. So just getting to be physically present there is pretty awesome.
It was moving to walk in there. And what was even better was he has renovated the entire Oval Office. So it's
the Declaration of Independence is on the wall there.
It's incredible.
And
I just learned this though, all these paintings that are up there. Because I asked, I'm like, who picked? He literally, there's these books
catalogs
of all the
archives.
And he would at night, he picked, it's just remarkable.
It is very interesting.
But it was an incredible experience. I can tell you, you know, it's for someone who's always just loved this country. It was a dream come true to me. We had a very engaging conversation. And look, I hope to earn his support, just like I got Governor Kemp's support. But again, the most important support I could get are from the people of Georgia.
What did you find Trump to be like? Because people always want to ask me that question. I'm curious what you found him to be like.
Well, he's everything you see on TV from an energy standpoint.
Right.
And, of course, when you're talking to him, he's just got this amazing mental capacity to constantly talk about different issues. You have about 8 seconds to give a good answer, and then you might be on to something else.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, it's like whether you agree with Donald Trump or not, you want your president to be that engaged on so many things, to be that sharp mentally, to have that kind of energy level, because we sat in there for a very long time. And then I walk out and I'm almost exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like going through a boxing match.
Yeah.
And then I look up on TV and he's cutting this peace deal with Albania.
Yeah.
Doesn't even blink. He's on to the next thing. And I'm like, that takes incredible energy.
Did you ever think that Donald Trump and Nick Saban would be like buddy cop movie?
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you what he said, but yes, they
talk all the time, is my understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, and Trump obviously loves sports. He's been in Super Bowl, he's been everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that at some point he was wanting to grill you on sports related. And like some politicians, I think, pretend to like sports because they think it connects with the audience. He actually really cares.
I got to tell you, and I don't want to, I'm careful about disclosing what we talked about in there. But there was a part where he starts asking me about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And how can this quarterback be so good in college, but then he goes to the NFL and fail? He's really interested in
the transition.
The transition, and he's asking me about why is this guy not playing good, but this guy is. And I'm just sitting there like, man, this is amazing.
He doesn't sleep. I mean, he consumes everything, to your point. I mean, to be 79 years old, he probably sleeps 4 hours a night. And he's aware of everything going on in pop culture and watching sports all the time,
and then 10 minutes later, he's got to go. He's talking about NATO.
That's right.
And, I mean, it's incredible.
All right. So Georgia itself, the primary is in May.
Mm-hmm. May 19th.
You've got May 19th. You've got to win that nomination. John Ossoff. Let's talk about him for a sec, because I'm fired up about that. I'm a Tennessee guy, so I'm not able to vote in the Georgia decision. But
you can donate, by the way.
Well, you that's good. You asked me for money, I'll give you. So Ossoff is in favor of men and women's sports, and to me, I think I know Georgia pretty well. I mean, obviously, one of the benefits of my co-host Buck Sexton on the radio show says I innately trust anybody who's a college football fan. No matter who, because we speak a common language.
So Buck's got my back then.
Buck's got you. Yeah.
All right.
But how in the world can he represent the people of Georgia and be that out of step culturally? Because to me, leave aside the particulars of tax cuts or what the rates of the tax code should be for big businesses, all these different things that are federal issues. That stuff matters. But culturally, when you're telling me a man can win a women's sports championship, that might play in California, that might play in Oregon. It sure as hell doesn't play in Georgia. How's this guy, the senator, representing this state?
Well, we have to learn some lessons on back in 2020, but what we have on John Ossoff now that we didn't have is a 5-year record.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to think about this, and I'm going back to football, Clay. We have an old saying, your film is your resume.
Yeah.
A lot of great players, quote, come in, they're big, they're fast, they're strong, and they go, Coach, I don't understand why I'm not playing.
Yeah.
And we go, well, let's just turn on the film.
Eye in the sky doesn't lie.
It doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And we have to be very disciplined on his 5-year record. I think about all the things that I talked about, lawlessness. He was the one not backing the police.
Yes.
You think about, you mentioned the culture issues.
Yes.
He's supporting that, the inflation. He voted to do all this.
Yep.
And so we have to stay disciplined on his record. But here's what you got to know, Clay. He is a great politician.
Yeah.
That's the word. He says one thing in Georgia, and then he does something completely different in Washington, D.C. And so when he's just going around the state talking, people go, oh, he's a kind of center guy. But then when you look at his record, 98% voted for the Biden administration, votes against everything the Trump administration is trying to do. The record doesn't reflect what he says. And so we're going to stay disciplined. I think that's one of the reasons the governor has supported me, because they want somebody who can stay on offense. They don't have a record. They got to sit there and defend the whole time. We got to keep the record on Ossoff.
How much is this race going to cost? Let's say you're the nominee, and I know what they spent in Georgia on the presidential. This is going to be one of the biggest races because if he loses, Ossoff, you win, then there's virtually no chance of flipping the Senate at all from Republican to Democrat, right? Because you're taking back a Democrat seat, and that helps in some of the other battlegrounds, no doubt. How much money have you guys run through what the total cost of this thing is going to be by the time it's done?
Well, think about the importance of it. You mentioned it. This is really the only Senate race in the country where a sitting incumbent can truly get flipped. You have a chance.
Yeah.
And the Republicans are playing defense in about 5 or 6 states.
That's right.
And so even though there's a 53-47 margin, we could go back to 2020 era pretty quickly if we're not vigilant.
Yeah.
Some of the White House people told me by the end of the cycle, there could be $500 million spent on it.
Unbelievable.
And of course, my wife says, why don't we just take all that money and bring down the deficit?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Common sense.
But that is crazy to think about, that it could cost that much. I mean, I know you mentioned North Carolina is going to be an incredible battleground. But Georgia is, I think, the one flip opportunity where a sitting incumbent senator could lose and should lose.
And look, Clay, you and I were talking earlier. I was so laser focused on coaching.
Yep.
You don't think these things matter as much because our country, was always sort of shifting
middle of the road,
a little bit here, a little bit there. But over the last 5-6 years, we saw a shift that everybody should, if you have kids or grandkids and you're worried about their safety or you're worried about their ability to get a job or buy a house or raise a family, then you need to care.
Yeah.
And you need to get involved. And I've tried to get more young people. When I say young, I'm talking 40s, very successful, who don't typically give in political cycles to get engaged because it matters.
You mentioned young people. We're on a college campus. Charlie Kirk, you're in the middle of the campaign season already. I was live on the radio when I saw and heard about that shooting and started to see the results, the videos, everything else. Where were you? What was your reaction when you saw what happened?
The first reaction is anytime somebody, you lose somebody who's got a wife and kids, it should break your heart. I don't care who it is.
That's right.
All right, because you got a family now that's just been devastated. And then, of course, it just breaks my heart of political violence.
Yeah.
And any violence is bad, but certainly when it becomes about ideas and what our country was really founded on, it breaks your heart. And I think Dan Lanning had the best quote on it. I mean, we need to learn from the locker room where, there was a lot of personalities in locker rooms and on teams, a lot of disagreements. And look, it got contentious.
Yeah.
But we found this common ground too. It wasn't all about what our differences were. It was a lot of what our, what do we have as common ground?
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us together. And so I'm just hopeful, that we move out of this. I have a lot of confidence in our country and belief. I don't believe that 80% of the country wants that kind of dialogue to happen. And so it broke my heart. But look, it's one of the reasons I'm running, because I do think leadership matters. I think we need more better people in office that can bring up a level of inspiration in our country and belief in its greatness. And the more people we do that, I will tell you this too, Clay. I want to add, when I was a kid, and you might remember this, one of my favorite shows was Crossfire.
Yeah, I did.
And I think we had James Buchanan on the right and Novak. There were some different guests.
Yeah.
But I watched it and I think it was on CNN.
It was.
And I used to love it because they would argue and argue and argue, but there was a respectful dialogue. They would disagree, and then at the end, they'd shake hands. And you'd move on.
That's right.
And as a kid, I was able to listen and then form my opinions based on, I wasn't in this one echo chamber.
Right.
And so we know this is what makes our country great. We need everybody talking, and then people forming their own opinions. And then we ultimately will get it right over time. And we just can't lose that in our country.
Well, I mean, that's also the foundation of the law degree that you and I both got, which is you may have to argue for a lot of things you don't personally believe in.
That's right.
And the advantage that you now have in this office, and frankly, the advantage that I think I have, I don't have to look around and worry about anybody else's opinion but my own. you're now able to speak in Georgia for a lot of people that feel like they're not being represented well. You look at all the facts and you just get to make an argument.
That's right. And I appreciate the consistency you've had in that. And you have to be consistent. You can't say we should have freedom of speech and then you get mad when somebody who disagrees with you is talking. I mean, you've been consistent on that. It's just what it is. But I think the market should handle it.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about whether
the marketplace of ideas is the most important thing in America, right? The best idea should win. The best candidate should win. That's the foundation of our democratic republic.
That's exactly right.
You and I first met because you were coming on when you were a coach at Tennessee, and I was doing local sports talk radio. And early on, we also signed your mom. And I want to know, how is she doing? Yeah. And are you going to bring her out on the campaign trail? Because I got a feeling you give her a mic, she's ready to go still.
Yeah, she's ready. I'll give you two approaches here.
Yeah.
First of all, she's never had a filter, as we all know.
Yes, that's why she was great on a radio guest.
But my father was kind of a governor. She would look at her and say, that's enough.
Yeah,
all right. Well, once he passed,
there's no governor anymore.
She's 86. There's no governor. And I told her when I was thinking about doing this, I said, Mom, I might have to put you on a cruise ship for a year and just sail around the world.
What did she say when you went to your mom and you said, hey, I'm thinking about running for Senate?
She was fired up. She actually ran for Congress years ago.
Oh, I didn't even know.
And got beat. Yeah, she lost by like 400 votes. It crushed her. So she loves it.
Yeah.
And she loves you. She
got
watches you all the time.
She watches Fox News a lot, I bet.
But I was talking to a former senator from Georgia.
Yep.
And I was telling him, I'm like, I got to be careful about how my mom is in this thing. And he goes, you know something, Derek? You just got to let Barbara be Barbara. And I said, well, there's probably a lot of truth.
Is she still living in Georgia?
She's still in the same house that she's lived in since 1965.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as you are going around, you got to go all over the state of Georgia. And the answer is people are going to decide all over the state. But it seems like the North Georgia, that's where Bryant Kemp has been so good at getting out voters, right? How do you balance the travel around the state, the fundraising? You just said it might cost $500 million before all is said and done. It's really kind of like you've got to put a game plan in place to be able to win a Senate race, just like you had to put a game plan in place to win a game.
That's right. That part's been fun. But I will tell you this about Georgia. It's very diverse. Yeah. It's very independent-minded. Most people from far away don't realize this about our state. If you don't have an ability to connect with every group, white, suburban mom, the black community, the Hispanic community, Indian, Asian, Jewish community, if you can't pull from every group, and that doesn't mean you're going to agree on everything. Yeah. But if you don't have a leadership style that they respect and they say, you know what, I want him representing our state and I know he'll fight for me when it matters, you have no chance to win statewide. Yeah. So there's no secret sauce. It's not, oh, you got to win Atlanta, or oh, you got to win South Georgia. You got to pull from all groups. That's what Governor Kemp did. That's what Donald Trump did in 2024. Yeah. And it's something I've been connecting with my whole career. And so the secret is I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I've been doing it for 8 weeks now, getting in my truck, driving all over the state, meeting with as many people as I can. And I'm going to continue to do that until May 19th. And I feel like I'll be the last guy standing.
If people want to help, what should they do?
DooleyforGeorgia.com. If you can't vote in Georgia, it's okay. Yeah. We take money from everywhere.
We take it out. Certainly does.
They get it from all over. Yeah. We're going to be dealing with a lot of California and Hollywood money for sure. Yeah. And that's what they did with Stacey Abrams when they tried to beat Brian Kemp. Yeah. And so to be able to, we don't have to match what he raises because I'm not sure if it's possible. Yeah. But we need to have enough to where we can compete. And we're on our way to do that. And any support our football fans from around the country, if they want more people with some common sense that has the value sets that they believe in, shoot us some money over and help us win this election.
What else should we know? When I was practicing, one of the questions, I think I probably told you this when we talked back at your house in Dallas, that I would sometimes learn, you do depositions, you do interviews, you say, what else should I have asked you that I didn't get a chance? What do you wish, what would you like to tell this audience that I haven't given you an opportunity to tell them yet?
Well, I think we ought to talk about Georgia-Bama. Yeah. All right, because I want college football fans to pull for these two quarterbacks. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. First of all,
Ty Simpson well.
I was at Alabama 2 years coaching quarterbacks, but I was really grinding with the backups. Yep. all right, while, we had Bryce Young one year, Milroe one year, and of course the coordinator is always hands-on there. And so I spent hours with Ty Simpson when he was younger, helping him develop, teaching him X's and O's, teaching him leadership, that sort of thing. And I love Ty to death. I love Gunnar Stockton to death. I live in Rabun County. I've known Gunnar and his family for years.
Yeah.
Both of those quarterbacks had opportunities in this day and age to go somewhere and get paid a lot more money years ago, last year. But their dream for Ty was to be the starting quarterback at Alabama. The dream for Gunnar was to be starting quarterback at Georgia. And so they stuck through adversity and kept waiting and working, and then they finally have their opportunity. And so I'm pulling for both of them, even though I'm bleeding red and black.
The G. This ties in because I'm sure you followed some of the Nico situation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most challenging things in life, as you well know, because you were a young guy, is, and I'm raising 3 boys, you've raised kids as well now, is getting kids to have a long-range view in a world that rewards the short term all the time.
Yes.
And big part of coaching is that. Big part of being a successful leader in general is getting people to see the long-term gain as opposed to the short-term success. Has NIL accelerated that in a way where you don't necessarily have kids who are thinking, as ideally they would, hey, heck, I could be the next Patrick Mahomes. I might become a billionaire, right? If you're a successful quarterback in the NFL, you can become a billionaire. You might make $600,000, $700,000 in college, but that's a pinprick of your overall value.
That's right.
How do you get kids, how do you get the country to make a decision that's in the best interest long term when the focus is all short term?
It's a great question. I think the bigger issue than NIL is the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Listen, college kids have always been able to make money, work in the summers, and now that they're doing it through their name, image, and likeness, as long as it's real and we have this revenue share, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But having this ability to use that and just constantly jump and job hop.
Yeah.
All right, we're losing what college athletics gives to young people, which is teaching them how to stick through when times are tough.
Yeah.
All right, it doesn't always go your way, and you start learning values of hard work, teamwork, staying together, supporting each other that are going to carry them for the rest of their life. And so we got to get our arms around this portal thing. And a lot of it, look, this goes to another issue of how government can help, because I think the NCAA has spent like $500 million on legal fees in the last 10 years.
It's pretty unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They can't make a rule without getting sued by their own membership or by the players.
Yeah.
And so there has to be some protection to allow them to make rules. All right. But we need to make sure we protect all the other sports because they're all important. All right. And we also got to be able to protect the players so that they get what they deserve, what's fair. And so I think there's a path forward for that. But again, we got to get this politics. It can't be Republicans think this, Democrats. It's ridiculous. This is the future of our country. I think our greatest resources are people, and we need to invest in them the right way. College athletics play such a big role in it, and we all need to come together to find a solution that benefits everybody.
How long do you think Kirby does this? You talked about the fact that he's wired like Saban, but maintaining excellence is way more challenging than building excellence for a lot of people out there. And he's now maintaining excellence. Is he a guy who does this for 20 more years? You know him well. Like, how would you assess him?
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I think that every coach, after it, you almost go year to year.
Yeah.
It's such the cycle of 1 year is so exhausting mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
And you probably always have this period where I don't know if I'd keep going. But then all of a sudden you get this renewed spirit. But as long as he's having this success, I don't see him stopping. And that was what Nick always said.
Yeah.
As long as I feel like I can have the success I am, I'm going to stay in it.
Yeah.
But this new paradigm really didn't fit what his model was.
Yeah.
If you think about it, he would always accrue the best talent, but then he would bend the twig. He made it hard on them.
Yeah.
And he would mold them and teach them how to play for something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
And they turned out this great product. Well, what happened was in this new era, he would start making it hard on them, and they'd say, hell, I'm out of here. I'm going to Ole Miss for $500,000.
Yeah.
So the model really didn't work. You had to adjust, and Kirby's done the best job of it. He won in the old model, and now he's winning in the new model. There's not many coaches who've done that.
No doubt. Well, we hope you win in the new model of the Senate.
Yes.
And I've said this before. I mean, let me know what I can do to help you. I
appreciate it.
We're good. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, appreciate you. If you want to give a pitch there, close out. Derek Dooley, your website one more time.
DooleyForGeorgia.com. All you got to do is hit donate. You only have to hit 2 buttons, and you'll never even see the money.
That is outstanding. I'm Clay Travis. He's Derek Dooley. This has been OutKick, the show.